Hey everyone, welcome to Flyin Miata. My name is Eric, and we're going to do another Facebook Live episode. Today we're going to talk about something that's not too glamorous, but incredibly important to your car, and that's timing belts. So I've got a few things on display that I'll walk you through, but let me mention first a couple of things that have to do with timing belts and what Mazda recommends and all that good stuff. So let's say you've got a 95 Miata. It's 24 years old, and you're not sure if it's ever had a timing belt on it, but the car's only seen about 50,000 miles through its entire life. Mazda calls out a change interval of about 60,000 miles, but they don't tell us how many years that should take. So at some point, the car is going to need a timing belt based on age versus mileage. So you got that 95 Miata with 40,000 miles on it, with a factory timing belt on it, maybe now is a good time to start thinking about changing that boy out. So, moving on from that, what I've got on display here is our timing belt tool kit. And depending on which car you get, you're going to get a timing belt or a crank tool, a crank bolt tool, I should say. The strategy with this guy is you take the crank pulley off and bolt this on, and then rotate the engine so this rests against the thermostat neck. That gives you the leverage that you need to get that crank bolt off. So also we've got the handy dandy Ninja cam gear tool to hold those cam sprockets in place, long and short nose seal installers. This is the seal installer for the camshaft, and this is the one for the VVT. So what these do, you can see on the inside they've been nicely machined. So what those do is you install the seal and press it into place using the seal installer, and it's going to install it perfectly evenly and to the proper depth. So you get it in there just right, it's not going to leak on you, and you won't have to go back in and redo it. You can see that these guys are all really beat up. We actually use these in our shop a lot, and they are worth their weight in gold. So what all comes in a Flyin Miata timing belt kit? So our timing belts come from Continental. I'm sure you've heard of them. They've been around for a while. We've been using these timing belts for at least a decade, maybe a decade and a half, with excellent results. They're very, very reliable timing belts. Anything from completely stock Miatas all the way on up to 400 horsepower big turbo Miatas. Hey! What are you supposed to be? A timing belt dinosaur. This is not fair. I'm live right now. So this is Amber the dinosaur. So in your timing belt kit, you're going to get a new valve cover gasket. A 24-year-old valve cover gasket in that 95 Miata is probably going to come apart when you take that valve cover off. So we get you a fresh one of those. You also get, of course, a timing belt. And fresh pulleys, one for the tensioner and one for the idler. So a question that I get an awful lot is, why don't you supply a new idler spring? Well, that one can actually be reused. The idler spring is, once everything's installed and the idler pulley or the tensioner pulley is tightened down, the spring really is just a backup at that point, because the bolt is what's holding the pulley in place. So if something were to happen there, that's where the spring comes in play. So that part can actually be reused without a problem. There's no need to replace it. And in addition to that, depending on what year Miata you've got, you're also going to get a couple of cam seals and a crankshaft seal that you install with those nice tools. Thank you, Dinosaur Amber. Okay, so I just explained a lot of stuff. So let's check and see if any questions have popped up about timing belts. I think we have a list going there on the table. Anything I didn't cover?
How long does this usually take?
Oh, how long does it usually take to change a timing belt on a Miata? Well, if you've never done one before, you should probably take your time, move along carefully, try to make good decisions, don't get frustrated. It's kind of major surgery. You want to make sure you're paying attention. Somebody that's done it an awful lot might take, you know, about 4 or 5 hours. If you've never done it before, maybe schedule the whole day, give yourself some time. And if it's a Sunday, maybe make sure you've got a way to get to work the next day.
I think you've already answered how often it should be done.
Mm-hmm.
What should be done at the same time?
Okay. So the question is, what other items should I consider doing while I'm doing a timing belt job? Well, the big answer to that is the water pump. The water pump actually lives underneath the timing belt. So if you did a timing belt job and a week later your water pump started leaking, then you'd be doing another timing belt job. So considering that, you know, my example of the 95 Miata that's 24 years old with 50,000 miles, if it's got the original water pump on it, that's probably due to be changed at the same time.
Does it involve removing of the crankshaft?
The question is, do you have to remove the crankshaft in order to do a timing belt? Luckily enough, no, you don't have to remove the crankshaft. Mazda was nice to us and made it so you don't have to do that.
And do you have a strategy on how to remove stuck timing belt gears, I'm assuming the crank gear, to replace the seal without damaging components like the oil pump?
Okay, so the question is asking, every once in a while we come across a crank sprocket, for example, that just does not want to come off the nose of the crankshaft. So the strategy with that is a lot of patience and very, very gentle pressure. Get yourself a small pry bar, perhaps a very small rubber mallet, and some PB Blaster or WD-40, and spray it, gently pry on it, tap on it with that plastic hammer or that rubber mallet. What you're trying to do is create just a little bit of a shock to get that penetrating oil to work itself in there, and slowly, slowly, slowly you'll loosen that thing up. Whatever you do, don't fight it and don't pry too hard, because what you're prying against is your oil pump, which is aluminum, and it's gonna crack easily, and if you do crack it, then you're gonna pull the engine. If your cam sprockets are kind of stuck, so let's say you've already got the bolt out and your cam sprocket just won't move, again, you can take a plastic or a rubber mallet and gently tap the back of it. Try to go from side to side as much as you can, and that'll help work it off of the end of the camshaft. Okay, any other questions?
That's all from the list, and so far no Facebook questions.
Okay, well, looking back through all of this, I think I've pretty well covered the basics and showed you everything that comes with our timing belt kits. If you've got more questions, feel free to put them in the comments below. We'll get to them as soon as we can. Otherwise, really appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll see you next week for another Facebook Live.